This race had men dropping out left and right in the brutally hot and humid conditions. The T100 series has finally arrived and some of the best athletes in the world descended on Miami for the first of 8 races this season. The men's field was super strong with 16 of the top 20 ranked athletes, headlined by Magnus Ditlev and Jason West, along with Sam Long, Sam Laidlow and Mathis Margirie as the pre-race favourites. However, eyes were on Alistair Brownlee as he made his return to this level of racing, as well as the youngest athlete in the field and reigning 70.3 world champion Rico Bogan. As Ditlev comes down, we can see the top-ranked athletes grouped together on the left side of the pontoon. From the left, we've got Peter Hemerick, Ben Canute in the red cap, Bogan in green, West just behind Ditlev in blue, Ditlev in orange, and then Sam Long and Sam Laidlow. Laidlow, along with Aaron Royal, are typically the main aggressors in the swim, and going into the swim, they will have wanted to make sure they get some separation from Jason West and Magnus Ditlev. As we pan round, we can see Royal on the end of the pontoon closest to us in the pink cap. Brownlee's there in the yellow cap, and Margirie in the middle in the purple cap. And they're off, and you can see Laidlow gets a great start. Within 10 seconds, he's already starting to break away from the group, with Royal coming up the right hand side as they look to get away from Ditlev and West. As we get our first overhead shot, you can start to see the front pack forming, but athletes are still swimming side by side and Ditlev is just on the back trying to follow the feet in the water. As we move up the front pack, we can see Margirie next to Yuri Kulin, West next to Brownlee, Canute and Koolhaas, Aaron Royal swimming into back-guard and Rico Bogan just behind Laidlow. 5 minutes down and Laidlow leads round the first buoy, and we see Ditlev still hanging on to the back of the group just behind Gregory Barnaby in the blue swim skin. As they come round, they start to get more strung out and we see the gaps starting to form further back, with Magnus Ditlev beginning to drop off the back. Coming round these buoys at the bottom of the course, Ditlev looks like he's within touching distance of rejoining the pack, but as they round the second buoy, he begins to lose further ground and that solidifies the break. Laidlow leads through the Aussie exit and we see Jason West, Mathis Margirie and Yuri Kulin are all right there, all three having great swims to make that front pack. Brownlee said after the race that the pace wasn't that hot on the first lap, and we see Royal move to the front on the second lap after he's seen who's with them to try and drive the pace and cause another split. That front pack would stay together with Bogan taking over the pace setting over the last couple hundred metres to lead them out and into transition. Bogan was first onto the bike and starts setting the pace up front. As they mount the bike, Ditlev comes out of the water with the chase pack 58 seconds down. Despite getting dropped from the front pack, this is his best swim he's had at a PTO race, coming out of the water with a deficit under a minute for the first time ever. Further back, Sam Long leads out a small group of Chevalier and Horseau with a 3:25 gap to the front. Margirie quickly moves to the front to capitalise on one of his best swims of his career. He's one of the best riders in the field and you can see him start to apply the pressure early in the bike. That pressure from the Frenchman quickly narrows the front group down to 5, with Bogan, Brownlee, Royal and Kulin in tow, with West and Laidlow losing ground. Margirie begins to extend a small lead and Brownlee moves through to close the gap. We see Laidlow riding on his own and you can see he's lost his rear bottle, not ideal for these hot conditions. As others fall off the pace, Ditlev holds his deficit to Margirie and Brownlee at just over a minute and moves through the field. He passes Kulin, Bogan and Laidlow and also starts to lap athletes further behind. Margirie continues to drive the pace at the front, and this is a new version we've seen of Alistair Brownlee. Typically we'd see him sharing the work on the front and drilling the pace, but we heard him talk before the race saying he was going to try and be more sensible, and this could be the new and improved Alistair Brownlee. We saw it a little bit at the end of last season, but has the double Olympic champion finally figured out how to race long course triathlon? It could just be that he's on his limit trying to hang with Margirie, who is looking to crack a podium at one of these world class races for the first time. We see our leaders lap Jason West, who continues to hemorrhage time, sitting nearly 5 minutes back even after that brilliant swim. After not being able to follow the Margirie attack, Laidlow latches onto Ditlev and starts following him to the front of the race. After not making much inroads into the lead in the early stages of the bike, Ditlev slowly begins to reel in Margirie. Sam Long continues to match Margirie's pace on the bike, moving through the field but is still sitting 3.5 minutes down. Ditlev and Laidlow finally latch onto the back of Margirie and Brownlee towards the end of the bike. Margirie was able to hold him off for 70k, but Ditlev bridged up and was able to sit in for the final 10k of the ride, with this group of 4 coming into T2 together to battle it out for the win. Laidlow was fastest through T2 and was first onto the run, closely followed by Brownlee, who goes herring after him. As Brownlee takes the lead from the Frenchman, we see Bogan, Coulon and Bakkegaard come into T2 2.5 minutes back, while Sam Long comes into T2 just as they leave transition, having made up some time to be down just over 3 minutes. Pre-race favourite Jason West is now down over 7 minutes after a really disappointing bike for the American, even after that career best swim. In a striking similarity to Ibiza last year, Brownlee starts breaking away at the front of the race, but given he sheltered himself on the bike, you start to wonder whether he has saved his best for the run. He gradually built a near minute lead through 8k, with Ditlev trailing, followed by Margirier, while Laidlow had started to blow up, the lost nutrition coming back to bite him. Coulon and Long are moving up through the field, with Long the fastest mover aside from Jason West, who is out of contention. Just as it begins to feel possible for Brownlee to go all the way, his expression starts to change and the pain begins to set in. In a repeat of Ibiza, he starts to fade and Ditlev closes the gap over the next 5k before taking the lead. But the race is not done. Sam Long continues to outrun Ditlev and sits just over a minute back, having taken a whole 2 minutes out of the Dane. Can the American pull off an upset to take a huge win on home soil? He continues to chip away at the lead, moving past Margirier and Brownlee into second, and with a lap to go the lead is under a minute. Ditlev was able to keep it under control and manage the gap all the way to the line, coming home 35 seconds ahead to take his first win over the distance and take the top spot in the T100 series. The Great Dane is looking like a dominant force in 2024 and is cementing himself as the clear favourite for the series. A really impressive performance from Sam Long, who had his best run over the distance by over a minute, running sub 60 minutes for the first time. He will consistently be a threat in the series and is one of the athletes focusing purely on it. He'll always be on the back foot out of the water, so we'll have to see if he makes any improvements. Mathis Margirier finally gets his podium after 4th place finishes at the US Open and 70.3 Worlds last year. He continues to demonstrate his swim bike prowess, and with an improving run, we could see him move up the podium in 2024. He led the majority of the bike, so you wonder if he'd been able to share the work with someone, if he'd been able to have a bit more on the run to challenge for the win. Wildcards Coulon and Koolhaas impress and keep themselves first in line for a call up to Singapore. Brownlee was able to limit the damage and came home in 5th, his best result over the distance, but it could have been so much more. However, this is a great stepping stone for him to build on, and I won't be able to overlook him anymore. Next stop, Singapore.